Here is the full story, completely rewritten in natural, modern United States English, no timestamps, no headings, just the story flowing like a movie script or short novel. Chicago, late October. The wind off Lake Michigan cut like a knife, but inside the little corner cafe on Halsted, it was warm and smelled like burnt coffee and cinnamon rolls. Clint Adams, 35, sharp jaw, expensive-looking coat that was starting to show wear at the cuffs, nursed a black coffee he couldn't really afford. He hated his job. Hated his apartment. Hated that every month he was one missed commission away from having his lights shut off. Then the bell above the door jingled, and Eleanor Hughes walked in. She was 72, silver hair in a perfect low bun, camel coat that probably cost more than Clint made in a year. Trailing behind her was a nervous assistant clutching a leather planner like it was the nuclear codes. Everybody in the city knew Eleanor, philanthropist, widow of steel magnate Howard Hughes, no relation to the crazy one, and the woman who turned her late husband's fortune into scholarships, community centers, and second chances for kids who'd never had a first one. Clint watched her slide into a booth, and something clicked. This wasn't a woman you robbed. This was a woman you married. He straightened his tie, walked over, and gave her the smile that had closed 100 mediocre deals. "Excuse me, you're Eleanor Hughes, aren't you?" She looked up, polite but guarded. "Yes. Have we met?" "Not yet," he said, voice warm, eyes softer than they'd ever been in his life. I've read so much about the foundation. What you do for kids, it's incredible." 10 minutes later he was sitting across from her, nodding like a devout pilgrim while she talked about mentorship programs and capital campaigns. By the time she left, he had her personal email and a promise to drop by the office anytime. Phase 1, complete. Over the next weeks, Clint became the foundation's most enthusiastic volunteer. He rearranged storage closets, charmed donors, stayed late just to finish the spreadsheets. Eleanor started calling him dear. Her best friend Martha, a retired schoolteacher with eyes like a hawk, watched him the way airport security watches shoes. Clint smiled wider every time Martha glared. He took Eleanor to lunch at the same Greasy Spoon diner she used to visit with Howard. He listened to her stories, teared up at exactly the right moments, and told her just enough half-true sob stories about his own rough childhood to make her squeeze his hand across the table. "I always knew I'd pay it forward one day," he whispered. "I just needed to meet someone who showed me how." Eleanor's eyes glistened. "Sometimes all a person needs is one person who believes in them, Clint." Hook. Line. Sinker. Soon he was driving her to galas, carrying her groceries, fixing the leaky faucet in her guest bathroom. Friends whispered. Martha outright growled. Eleanor glowed like she was 30 years younger. One night, after a long fundraiser, she invited him for dinner at the house, big old Victorian on the Gold Coast, original Tiffany windows, the whole fairy tale. Clint stepped inside and nearly laughed out loud. This was it. The finish line. Another year, maybe two, a tasteful proposal, a quiet wedding, a tragic widow's untimely passing, and every zero in her bank account would have his name on it. He poured her wine, complimented the chef, kissed her cheek goodnight like a perfect gentleman.
What Clint never knew, what he never even suspected, was that Eleanor had clocked him the second he slid into that cafe booth. She'd buried one husband and outlived 3 gold-digging suitors before Clint was even born. She knew the script by heart, the soft voice, the watery eyes, the perfectly timed stories about deadbeat dads and scholarship angels. She'd seen it all. And Eleanor Hughes, sweet, trusting, lonely Eleanor Hughes, had decided to rewrite the ending. She let him move in to help with the foundation's new expansion. She let him manage her personal accounts so she wouldn't have to bother. She let him pick out the ring, modest, tasteful, antique, just like she knew he'd choose something he could flip later. The wedding was small, beautiful, heartbreakingly romantic. Clint cried. Martha didn't come. That night, in the master bedroom of the house that was now half his, Clint toasted his reflection in the mirror with a glass of 1945 Chateau d'Yquem. Tomorrow the real celebrating began. Across the hall, Eleanor sat at her vanity, took off her pearls, and opened the bottom drawer. Inside was a thick file labeled simply CA. Bank records. Old arrest reports from 2 states away. Photos of 3 previous grieving widows who'd lost everything to a charming salesman named Clint Adams, or Carter Allen, or Christopher Ames, depending on the year. She closed the drawer, smiled the smallest, coldest smile Chicago had ever seen, and whispered to the empty room. "Welcome to the family, darling. Enjoy it while it lasts." Because Eleanor Hughes wasn't planning to die anytime soon. She was planning to make the next 50 years of Clint's life a living nightmare. 1 cancelled credit card, 1 frozen account, 1 whispered phone call to the FBI at a time. Revenge, after all, is a dish best served slowly, with a prenup he never actually read, and a wife who had nothing left to lose and everything to give. The ultimate revenge wasn't taking his money. It was letting him think he'd already taken hers.